Welcome back to Cody Builds. On tonight's episode, we're officially ready to kick off the build on Jeff's Charger. And so I want to take you guys through this car and show you all the things that are wrong with it and all the work that we have laid out ahead of us. Now, if you watched last week's episode, you probably have a pretty good idea of where things stand. You get a pretty good concept of how rough the car is. You saw us put the car down on the table. There's quite a bit of work that needs to be done. You can see that obviously. But I want to take you guys through a more detailed look of this car, and we'll talk a little bit more about the car, how Jeff acquired it, and all that as we go along here. So let's start up front. That's the good end of the car. And there's not a whole lot that we have to do up here, but we'll start at the front of the car and we'll work our way to the back. We obviously have all the suspension components and everything removed. You can see the frame rails and all that on this side are in really good shape. We don't really start to get into any rust or anything until we get down into the lower parts of the rockers here. Any stuff like this is all really solid. It's all just surface rust. We're gonna just be cleaning this up and putting some rust reformer on anything that's like this condition. Anything down here where we've got panels pulling away, obviously we need to repair this rocker, but any areas we have like this where we have maybe panels separating, some rust between them, we're gonna clean this stuff up. If it's rusted through, we'll replace it with patches. Otherwise, we're just gonna clean everything up and get it back painted and looking good again. Coming around to the other side here, there's a little bit of rust damage down in here. This is basically the drain for the cowl, and this would get leaves and things plugged up inside of it. We'll make a little patch panel for that. We're gonna repair that. Similarly over here, Jeff already cut out a section of the firewall here where the bottom side of this cowl had rotted out and rotted a hole into the firewall. So again, we'll patch that up. Again, lots of surface rust, but this is all really, really solid stuff. Same here, again, in the cowl. We've got some repair up here, obviously, to do. We'll have some repair up under the cowl to do as well. So anywhere there's rust, we are gonna cut it out and weld in new metal. We're gonna do our best here to get this car close to rust-free as we can. What that means is we're not doing any license plates screwed down to the floor or anything like that. We're gonna do actual metal work here and try and repair as much of this type of stuff as we can to the best of our ability. So Jeff, in a few words, tell us why a 1973 Charger?
Excellent question. I remember I was a little kid living at home. A friend of my dad's came over one day, and it was Saturday or Sunday morning. It was a beautiful spring day. Remember it like it was yesterday. Guy came in and said, "Hey, I bought one of those new Chargers. Want to see it?" And my dad said, "Yeah, sure." And he turned to me and he said, "You want to see it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I remember we left out the back door, came down the gangway between the two houses. Out in front was parked this beautiful, beautiful sky blue Charger. I heard angels singing. I looked at this thing and I was like, that is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. And he took me for a ride in it. We went around the block and I just loved the sound of it, the smell of it, the shape of it, the style of it. That was the moment that I fell in love with cars. So this car made me fall in love with cars. It's as good as it gets for me.
Cool. And did you say about how old you were? Do you know?
What would I have been? So I believe his was a 74.
It was so brand new, so you know it was.
Yeah, so that would have put me at 8 or 9.
Not to age you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Your age
I got nothing to hide, but I'm not ashamed.
8 or 9.
Yeah, I was 8 or 9 years old.
Moving on into the cab here, you'll see we've got floor pan rust. Again, another pretty simple fix here. The frame is actually very solid on this car, the subframe. So we're just gonna repair the floorboard sections here up into the toe boards. The firewall is all pretty solid except for the areas that I showed you guys on the outside of the car. You can see up here, the top side or the back side of the cowl here is all in good shape. It's not until you get underneath here where we've got some rust that I pointed out earlier. So we'll get in here and we'll patch all that up, get everything cleaned up, get all this repainted. Obviously the floors are in rough shape here. We've got areas that are really solid, like right here in the middle, then areas that are really rough. This is extremely thin here, extremely thin in the toe boards back in the passenger section back here in the back. So we're gonna go ahead and get that repaired as well. Moving along back, you'll see there's damage in the rockers. The bottom of the rockers are rusted up pretty good. We get underneath the car here. You can see, like I said, the frame is actually really solid, but there are areas of rust, spot rust. You can see here, this rocker's rusted through. And one of the things to know about these Mopars is the rocker is actually a structural piece of this car. So something like this, where we got big rust holes in this, we're gonna fix all this up. And we have new rocker panels for each side, as well as some new floor pans and frame rails for the back, because as solid as this car is on the subframe from here to here, it's about the exact opposite from here back. There's quite a bit of rust in the frame back here, and there's quite a bit of damage. So you can see, obviously, our quarter panel is pretty shot here, right? We've got great big holes here, all the way back and through. It's missing back here. So we are gonna do fresh, brand new quarter panels on this thing. That'll be almost one of the last things that goes on this car, because we have a lot of other structural repairs that we need to do before we get there. But we are gonna go with some fresh, nice, brand new quarter panels. That's the only expensive pieces we're gonna put on this car, and it's only because of the extent of how bad these are. If they were in slightly better shape and there was more to work with here, we might have been able to repair these ourselves, but there's just too much gone here. There's a couple things that make this car a little more unique. One, it was an original rally package, right? Mm-hmm. So it had the rally wheels, had the rally stripes, had a 400 big block.
And actually, that is the original engine.
Okay, so the 400, if you guys, some of you guys will know, we pulled the engine out of this, did some diagnosing on it. We found that somebody, whoever had this car, I think they were Dukes of Hazzard wannabes.
I believe so.
That's the best we can
That's
come up with.
a nice way to put it.
Because the oil pan, in that video, we found that the oil pan had smashed up tight to the oil pickup. The whole engine was stuck, locked up really solid. One of the worst ones that I've seen. We were not able to break that engine free, and what we ended up diagnosing was that likely the crank bearings are welded into the mains from oil starvation. They probably got the thing way too hot and basically melted the bottom end down. So all the rods and pistons are intact. We just could not get that thing to turn over. We have the original 400 big block. It's gonna go back in this car eventually. As part of that package, another thing that kind of stood out on this one is it is a sunroof car. Mm-hmm. And that might explain some of the rust in the floors, things like that, because I'm sure, as most guys know, sunroofs from the 70s weren't exactly the most weather-tight things in the world. But we have all, basically, even though this car is down to its almost near shell here, Jeff has pretty much everything he needs to put this car back already. So he's got about 1.5 cars worth of Dodge Charger parts. And he's got a lot of what we already need to get things back together. The things he doesn't have, the panels and things that he doesn't have, are things that we're going to fabricate ourselves, with the exception of the rear quarter panels. But my goal on this car is to not have buckets of Bondo in it. We want a solid car that doesn't require that. Mm-hmm. Will there be filler in the panels to get a good paint job out of it? Yes. But we don't want, we don't want to do any pave and cave type stuff on this car. We want a good rock solid car. So quarter panels from AMD are going to be in the future of this car. All right, so now let's get into the real meat and potatoes of the repair here. This is where most of our work is cut out for us right now. You can see this car took a big old shot right in the rocker panel. We actually think this thing probably slid into a pole, is what it's seeming like. We've got all this damage here, obviously. Jeff had gone ahead and cut out a lot of the quarter panel to see how much damage we were dealing with before we even put the car on the rack or did any of that stuff. Really, the situation here is that we've got this damaged damaged rocker panel, but then in the floor here, you'll see the floor's kinked. And this is really a problem. That means everything on this side of the car is shoved over. That presented us with what seems like a very big challenge. So we really need to repair this whole section of floor here. We need to put a whole new rocker panel in this thing. Again, we need to patch floor pans and do all that stuff as well. The great news here is that Jeff has basically from this brace all the way back, new floor pans new frame rails. I don't want to say new, they're off of an old car. They are off a 73 Charger, but he's got both, basically this whole section of the car, from here all the way back to the trunk pan, as one single piece. I say as one piece, but I know that the rocker panel's been separated off of it for this side, because I believe the story was, Jeff, if you could remind me, I believe the story was the car that you found this car in Illinois, your parts car is from Wisconsin.
Correct.
The initial idea was we were going to replace just this rocker and the inner fender well here. And so the guy cut that rocker and inner fender well off of the other parts car.
That is correct.
Correct?
Yes.
And then you ended up going back and just buying the whole rest of his parts car pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah, he cut it apart before we really realized what we needed and what we were going to do, which is kind of unfortunate, because if he left it all in one piece, then we would just swap it out. So we've got to do it a little piecemeal now.
Yeah.
But at least all those parts are still in much better condition than what we have here.
Yeah. Yeah, so the good news there is those parts are relatively rust-free. There may be still some small areas we need to patch and repair, but nothing like this. Not, giant holes in the floor pan, significant rust issues in the frame in the back. So for us, basically, from that brace in the floor all the way to the back pan here, what you see is completely irrelevant to this car, because it's going to be cut out and going away. So that sounds scary, and we've never done anything like this. So it is a little bit scary, but the thing is, we're going to take our time, we're going to work through it, and we're going to figure all this stuff out kind of on the fly as we go here. The plan of attack here, considering how extensive the damage is, the first thing we want to do is get this rocker replaced. We're going to brace the front subframe to the back existing subframe for now, and then we're going to come in here and cut this rocker out and install the new rocker. Now the thing is, we can't install that rocker to this existing floor, because we're going to be replacing the floor from this little section here forward. We can attach it maybe about midship here, but even this, some of the stuff is pushed over pretty good. You can see how all the floor here is just kind of folded in on itself. Once we get all this structure out, what we might be able to do is kind of beat all that stuff back out, get it all flat back where it needs to be, and then get our new rocker panel kind of mounted in there. Once that rocker panel is in place, the next thing to go is basically going to be the floor from here back. So we're going to separate the back package tray, the back wheel well, separate the whole floor. We're actually going to separate the quarter panels back here, the drip rail of the trunk, and then everything below the quarter panels and the drip rail of the trunk is going away. This back section here that's all beat up and rusted up, all this goes away. This back tail panel here, all that goes away, and then we'll bring in the new piece, get that installed on the car, and then we'll set about fixing up all the little holes and things in the car along the way. We'll obviously have to weld in the new inner wheel tubs to the floor pan, get all the structure back in the car there, get all of the package tray and all that stuff reattached. You can see it's beat up pretty good. We're gonna have to straighten all of that out. It's all collapsed in there. We're gonna have to straighten all of that out, get it reattached, and get everything kind of back to the way that it should be. We know kind of the way the car took a hit right now. We know that we're narrow here, and what it did was it actually splayed out the frame rails in the back. So we're a little bit wider than we should be in the back. It stretched the floor pan out a little bit, and we're narrower up here. So when the new floor and the new rails go in, that's going to provide us a nice straight structure to build off of. We're going to be able to really square this car up and fix things like this back window, which is I'm gonna tell you right now, it's difficult to see on camera, but the whole side of this car is shifted up right now. We noticed that when it was sitting on the ground, the back window and all that is kind of pushed up, and that makes a lot of sense when you come around back to the inside here and you see how smashed up everything is there. It just kind of rocked that whole structure up. So we've got a lot of work to do, but nothing that I think is not doable here. It seems crazy, It seems like a huge project, and it is a huge project, but to make Jeff's dream of having a 1973 Charger basically as cheaply as we possibly can, this is the way we have to do it. And so this is what we're gonna do. I said I want to talk about goals for this car because obviously this car is not the perfect example of a 1973 Charger, right? And there's a lot of rust and a lot of things that we may not be able to make like 100% perfect. But Jeff and I had a good discussion about this car before we ever even laid our hands on it and set out some kind of like expectations, what to expect. It's really good to be on the same page as if you're working with other people on their projects, to talk about these things and kind of lay the groundwork for what the end goal of the project is, right? And we had that discussion.
Yes.
And where we kind of landed was the goal here is to have a safe, that's number one. Number one, most important thing is safe. Sound, so mostly rust-free 1973 Charger.
Yep, that I can drive on a regular basis.
Yeah, so we want to end up the end goal to be a safe, reliable driver. When we're talking about drivers, it doesn't mean perfect paint, it doesn't mean perfect panels, it doesn't mean everything has to be aligned to the nth degree here. And I think that's where some people get really spun out. You take on a project, you want it to be SEMA quality, you want it to be a concourse restoration, and if it's anything less than that, then why are you wasting your time, right? And I just don't agree with that, personally. I think these things are meant to be driven. They're meant to be out on the road. If you spend $20,000 on a paint job, the last thing you are going to want to do is drive that thing out in the country and get a rock chip on it, take it down a gravel road, anything like that. So I'm kind of a firm believer. You guys have seen it in Ellsworth. Like, we repaired things, quote unquote, the right way, as in we repaired all the rust. We straightened the panels up as best we could. We did all that stuff, but we didn't overdo it. And we're going to be doing something very similar with the Charger here. So the things that need to be fixed will be fixed. Will they be perfect? Probably not, because I'm not an expert. And I'm still learning and I'm still honing my skills. The end goal is to give something back to Jeff that he's extremely happy with, and he can go on and finish the restoration of this car. What comes out of the garage here, what we're planning on for this car is to basically do all the metal work in the garage. Jeff has no experience welding, correct?
None.
So he's going to be learning how to weld, because I'm not sure as heck not doing all the welding on this car. So it's going to be great, though, because we're going to be able to tag team this car once we get going, once we get Jeff some experience welding, panel fitting, all that type of stuff. So we're going to be able to make a lot more progress on this car than I can make by myself. So the idea here is for Jeff to learn some new skills, for me to improve on my skills, and for us to end up with a solid roller by the time we're done with this. When this car leaves my garage, my vision for it is to be rolling out of here in one color. Primer, probably not paint, but to be rolling out of it here in one color rather than what you see, because when you can get this thing back to being a complete shell in one solid color, whether that's primer gray, black, whatever, the motivation, I think, is going to be sky high to then continue on with this project. And that's what this channel is all about. It's about making progress on your projects. This is a big one. It'd be hard for any one guy to tackle by himself. So we are going to get after this car. We're going to start tonight by bracing up the floor and getting ready to cut out the rocker and do all that stuff. So Jeff, are you excited?
I am beyond excited.
All right.
Again, this is the dream, just to have something. Again, like you said earlier, that I don't want something that I'm going to be afraid to drive,
Right.
at all. The point is to get it out there, get it on the road. I always wanted this car. Never had, I had a 74 at one point. Let it go. One of the biggest mistakes in my life. You guys. Plenty of you out there who know that kind of story, right? So now it's back. I'm going to get it fixed up with Cody, and I'm going to keep it.
That said, we do have, you see how beautiful this car is and all the lovely colors on it. We have an idea of what this car looked like when it rolled off basically the showroom floor. Maybe a little more than that, because this is a little bit higher end build. But this is really what Jeff's going for. I don't want to say 100% going for, but he's considering. No decisions have been made yet. Going back to this is the original package this car was, down to the color, the stripes, not the wheels, But this is what this car looked like when it was brand new. And so we're gonna try and get this car back close to looking something like this. So we got a long ways to go from this to, well, from this to this. So we got our work cut out for us. You guys are gonna see all of that work and so much more on the next several episodes of Cody Builds. And I'm really excited to do this with Jeff. I'm really excited to teach him some new skills, for us to build this car together, and for eventually him to have his dream car. All that said, guys, it takes a lot of work. And if you don't work on your projects, they will not work on themselves. So get out in the garage, get building, and I'll see you on the next episode of Cody Builds.